The basket was light in the boy's hands, yet the hillside was heavy with hunger. 5 loaves rested quietly inside. 2 fish lay beside them, enough for 1 child, not enough for a crowd. My dear ones, what happens when what you carry looks too little for what is needed? And what if the small thing in your hands is already seen by God? Come closer, my dear ones. The hillside is warm beneath the evening light. The Sea of Galilee rests nearby. The crowd is tired, but no one wants to leave. Let your heart settle. This is a story about enough, but not the kind of enough we can always count with our hands. Jesus had gone to a quiet place, but the people followed him. They came from towns and villages. They walked along the shore. They carried sickness, questions, weariness, hope. And when Jesus saw them, he did not turn away. The days stretched long. Jesus taught them. He healed those who needed healing. He looked upon the crowd with compassion. The people had come hungry for truth. But as the sun leaned lower, another hunger began to speak. Children grew quiet. Mothers held them closer. Men looked toward the distant villages. The disciples saw the evening coming. They saw the place was remote. They saw the crowd was large, and their hearts began counting. Too many people, too little food, too late in the day. My dear ones, fear often begins by counting. It counts the empty spaces. It counts the distance. It counts what is missing. And after fear has counted everything, it whispers, "This cannot be enough." The disciples came to Jesus. They said the place was lonely, the hour was late, the people should be sent away to buy food for themselves. It sounded reasonable, it sounded careful, it sounded practical. But Jesus answered with a quiet instruction. They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. The words must have rested heavily upon the disciples. Give them something to eat. How could they feed such a crowd? The hillside was full of people. The evening was near. Their hands were not full. Their baskets were not full. Their understanding was not full. One disciple looked at the crowd. Another looked at the ground. Another looked toward the road. They were standing near Jesus, yet still measuring the moment, as if he were not enough. Then a small offering appeared. A boy was there. He had 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. A simple lunch. Enough for 1 boy, perhaps. Enough for a quiet journey, perhaps. But enough for thousands. The disciples could not see it. One of them said, "Here is a boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many?" There it was, my dear ones. The question many hearts know, what is this little thing beside such a large need? A little strength beside a long burden. A little money beside a large bill. A little courage beside a heavy fear. A little prayer beside a deep trouble. A little basket beside a hungry hillside. This was the first turning. The basket had not changed. The crowd had not become smaller. The evening had not moved backward, but the question had moved closer to the heart of faith. Would they trust what they could count? Or would they trust the one standing before them? Jesus did not send the boy away. He did not despise the small lunch. He did not say, "This is too little." He told the people to sit down on the grass, and slowly, the crowded hillside began to settle. Families sat in groups. Children leaned against their parents. Dust rested around tired feet. The sea shone softly in the distance. The basket remained small, but now it was near Jesus, and that changed the story. My dear ones, this is where the heart must pause. The miracle had not yet appeared. The bread had not yet multiplied, the baskets were not yet full, but before provision was seen, obedience began. The people sat down before they understood how they would be fed. Sometimes faith looks like standing. Sometimes faith looks like walking, and sometimes faith looks like sitting down in the place where there seems not enough. Jesus took the loaves, he took the fish. The boy's lunch rested in his hands. What had seemed too small was now surrendered. What had looked insufficient was now lifted with thanks. The disciples watched. The people waited. The evening grew still. And there, my dear ones, the hillside became very quiet. The crowd was hungry, the basket was small, the disciples were uncertain, and Jesus had not yet broken the bread. So what would happen when the little that was offered passed through the hands of God? The boy watched quietly. The disciples stood close. Jesus looked up to heaven. Still 5 loaves, still 2 fish, still not enough. And yet, Jesus gave thanks.
The bread was still small when thanksgiving rose over it. The fish were still few when Jesus blessed them. Nothing in the basket looked different, but everything had changed. Then he began to break the bread, one piece, then another. The disciples received it from his hands. They turned towards the crowd, and the small basket began to travel. At first, perhaps someone expected it to end quickly. A few hands, a few mouths, a few children, then nothing left. But the bread continued. The fish continued. The disciples kept giving, the people kept receiving, and the little lunch did not disappear. And there, my dear ones, the quiet wonder began. The bread became enough while it was being given, not while it was hidden, not while it was protected. It became enough as it moved through obedient hands. The disciples walked among the people. They gave to one group, then another. A mother received food for her child, an old man received what he needed, a tired traveler ate and rested. The hillside that had held worry began to hold wonder. No loud explanation was needed. They only knew this. They were hungry, and now they were being fed. They had come to a remote place, and provision had met them there. The boy's basket had seemed small when it was held alone, but in Jesus' hands it became a doorway. Through it, many received what they could not provide for themselves. My dear ones, sometimes the blessing does not begin with abundance. Sometimes it begins with surrender. It begins when the heart says, "This is all I have." And God answers, "Bring it here." The disciples kept passing the food. Their earlier question must have returned. What are these among so many? Now they were learning the answer. In their hands, not much. In fear's eyes, not enough. But in the hands of Jesus, more than they imagined. The people ate. Not a little taste, not a small comfort. They ate and were satisfied. The hillside filled with peace. The sun lowered gently. The sea held the evening light. The grass beneath the crowd was no longer only a resting place. It had become a table. Then Jesus told the disciples to gather what remained. Nothing was to be wasted. So they walked again through the crowd, this time, not carrying scarcity, carrying fragments, pieces left after everyone had eaten. One basket filled, then another, until 12 baskets stood full from what had begun as 5 loaves and 2 fish. The disciples had worried there was not enough. Now they carried what was left over. My dear ones, God's provision is not always loud. Sometimes it arrives piece by piece, hand by hand, step by step, and only afterward do we see. how much was carried. The boy must have looked at the baskets. Perhaps he remembered how small his lunch had seemed. But now, what he had offered had passed through the hands of Jesus, and the basket had proved to be enough. More than enough. As Scripture reminds us, Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and gave to those who were seated. When they had eaten their fill, the fragments were gathered. Nothing was lost. This is the wisdom, my dear ones. Little is not little when placed in God's hands. A small gift can become provision. A small obedience can become a doorway. A small offering can feed more lives than fear expected. But listen gently also. The miracle did not teach waste, it taught trust. The leftovers were gathered, the fragments were honored. God's abundance does not make us careless. It teaches gratitude and care for what remains. So the Scripture-shaped wisdom is simple. What is surrender to God can become more than enough. Fear asks, what is this among so many? Faith answers, place it in His hands. So ask your heart gently, what small thing am I holding that I have already called too little? And what might happen if I stopped hiding it and surrendered it to God? My dear ones, may this story stay gently with you. When your basket feels small, may your heart not turn away in shame. When the need before you feels large, may fear not speak the final word. And when you offer what you have, may you remember that God sees more in it than your worry can measure. If this story brought quiet wisdom to your heart, subscribe and return whenever you need quiet again. More wisdom is waiting beneath this same sky. As we leave this hillside near the sea, we move toward the next quiet place, where waiting may teach the heart how to trust before morning comes. And when you look into your basket again, look gently, for sometimes the thing you thought was too small is already becoming enough. The moment you place it in the hands of God, the boy's basket was no longer full, but his heart was. And beyond the evening grass, another small thing was waiting to become enough.